Howdy, y'all. My name is Abe Klein. I am a licensed professional counselor. I operate in Pennsylvania. I have been working in the field since 2016 and licensed since 2019. And I specialize in working with geeky clientele. I love getting to use anime, manga, video games, tabletop role-playing games, comic books in the context of my work with my clients.
Okay, so I guess I'll go next. My name is Eli Martin III, aka the Clinician. Is my code name or my alias or what have you. I have a background as a licensed professional counselor, been practicing since 2012. I'm also a master addiction counselor, so I have like a specialty in substance abuse, and that's the boring stuff. Now to get to so my geek references or pop culture references. I really am into anime. Love anime, love sci-fi. So, definitely, I don't know if there's any Star Wars fans out there or not, but definitely a huge Star Wars fan, but, definitely have a passion for anime and love incorporating, that style into my treatment. For any of you guys who have seen the anime Samurai Champloo, when you think about the anime, like just looking at the title itself is almost like an oxymoron, because when you think of samurai, you think of order, structure, basically, stability. But Champloo is actually the opposite. It's unorthodox. It's a gumbo pot of different styles that are incorporated. It's like a mixture. And that's me. I'm the Champloo in Samurai Champloo, if you think about it, and it kind of correlates with the characters. So just a little fun fact for that. But that's me, Eli Martin. Oh, and also I have a podcast, Comics and Coffee, you can check out as well on YouTube. Shameless plug.
Not about
no shame there.
I always thought that was just kind of a word they made up. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have to look that up.
No problem. Yeah, it's actually a real word, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Joe?
Nice. Hi, everybody. I'm Joe. I'm also in PA right now, trying to get back out to LA. I like it a little better out there. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of Hawaii and Florida. I know, I'm all over the place. Let's see, anime. I got into anime when I was staying up too late, and Adult Swim came on, and they started doing, the classics on there with Naruto, and I think Samurai Champloo was on around that time.
Yu Yu Hakusho.
One Piece. What's that? Yeah. Oh, anyway, so that's why I fell in love with anime, although I can't remember because I'm so old now, if it was on subtitled or dubbed, but I'm a snob and it has to be subtitled.
It was dubbed.
Yeah. If you were watching on Adult Swim, it was entirely dubbed. That was.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. And I had a hard time transitioning from the English to the Japanese, but now I will not watch anime in English. Like I can't. I've actually self-taught myself Japanese. I passed the basic proficiency test, just self-study from my Japanese coach on the good old Nintendo DS. And when all the bookstores were going out of business because the internet came a thing, I went and purchased all the Japanese workbooks. So little proficient. I'm better at listening than I am at speaking, so don't ask me to say anything.
Nihongo wakarimasen de yo.
What's that?
Nihongo wakarimasen.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, so I like to use anime, and I work with a lot of teens right now. I run my own virtual private practice, and I work with a lot of teens, and pretty much every teen I meet these days is a huge anime fan. I'm covered in anime tattoos. I go to the cons. I'm working on cosplay. I'm not that great at it, but I call it Frankenstein sewing. So I don't follow patterns. I just kind of run with it and have fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely hear you on that. I've been cosplaying since like 2007, I believe, and I don't make my own stuff. I buy pieces, I assemble cosplays, and I also commission my friends to make things.
There you go.
It's at the end of the day, it's how you want to do it.
Yep, that's true. I have a saber outfit from Fate Stay.
Wait, which saber?
And I've never worn it because I'm just a coward, I guess. So one of these days, my goal is to wear that saber outfit to a con and not be afraid.
Nice.
Totally valid.
One of these
And when
days.
you-
I have the whole thing. So,
You saying Fate Stay Night saber, like
yes,
Arturia saber? Okay, cool.
yes, definitely.
As a longtime Fate fan now, one of my favorite topics of conversation is, you say saber, which one? King Arthur saber, which one? Da, 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 da.
Right, there's so many versions now.
Yeah, and it's a rabbit hole. And as a history buff myself, I love the Fate series because it's how do we want to take this historical figure, bring them in and do wild stuff with them, such as let's take what's his name, Thomas Edison, and make him a big beefy dude with a lion head, because why not? But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yes.
All right.
I think
So
that's
where
all
do
I
we
had
want
to
to start? Oh, cool. So where do we want to start? Do you guys? So I know that for me, something that I like to do with my clients is to conceptualize a lot of mental health concepts as anime concepts, this and that. I want to, like, one thing I was thinking we could discuss is how some of our favorite concepts to use with our clients.
The hero's journey is like the main one that I use like all the time. Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
And you could definitely like with the hero's journey, that's an interesting dynamic because you can take really that applies to anything, really in life. But just to give like any like more context to that, like you can even look at Midoriya, for example, and like incorporate like Midoriya from My Hero Academia. Like, he's this kid who basically has this, really wants to be this hero, right? But the irony is, the spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen it, first episode at least, he just doesn't have it. But something happens to where that basically takes him on this journey because he's granted, a certain ability that allows him to grow throughout the series, and you're taking him out of his normal environment, right? Which is, I guess, like Act 1. And then he's going through these different phases, and just his development and arc, is interesting. And that's kind of and you can apply that to real life. So you could take, has anybody in general, been in a situation where, they were kind of in their comfort zone, right? Maybe you grew up, like, if you're like me, you grew up in a small town, very country, very rural area, everything's divided by a railroad track. And, I'm just, you're just country bumpkin and you're just growing up in a rural area. You don't really know anything outside of that. But then one day, hey, you actually decide, like, I got a scholarship, I'm going to college, that can lead to things. And then you go on this quest from there, and you're kind of outside your comfort zone. You go to this whole new world, and you realize how big the world is, and how small your location that you were like kind of at, is how tiny that is. And you just go on this like this like quest, and you go through these different arcs of, finding out what you want your major to be, what do you want to do as your profession, like how are you going to impact society, or like really just finding yourself, really is what it comes down to. So I think like when you can relate that, right? And that's the cool thing about anime, you can relate that. There's a lot of like philosophical concepts and ideologies that you can relate to people's daily lives. And yeah, I think that's a great way to start off, is a hero's journey, because you can really tie a lot of things into that dynamic.
I fully agree with that. And that's never something I've looked at, the concept of the hero's journey in the context of one's own mental health journey. And I know it's something that I don't use the concept of the phrase hero's journey. When we look at that topic, I feel something that to echo Joe, what you were saying, something I specialize in working with adolescents, teens, young adults. And something I see very often with my teens is that I can feel very personally from my experience in youth, and also as now a 32-year-old man, I struggle with perseverance and hard work, which, we see constantly in anime of characters who hard work, training arcs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for a lot of us in our development, we are not taught that in a healthy way. And I feel like anime is such a beautiful training tool for that, because we see these characters that we appreciate, we connect with, we see them working hard. And that right there can be a phenomenal driving force, positive example of what hard work can look like.
Absolutely.
Especially for the people who, something I talk about with a couple of my clients is, are y'all familiar with the concept of gifted kid burnout?
I ain't never heard of that one.
So gifted kid burnout is basically when you have a kid who within their youth, they are said, oh, wow, you're so smart. Oh, look at how well you do. Well, wow, you're gifted, you're smart, you're this and that. And for that kid themselves, they are excelling, they are doing well. And maybe they, to put it into video game terms, maybe they inherently have some higher stats at the beginning. But what ends up happening is at a certain point, between the expectation that you're so smart, you're just gonna do this just fine, or they don't properly level themselves to meet new challenges, / life around them doesn't help them to level up properly to meet their new challenges, it leads to them feeling inadequate because, well, I've just been smart. I've always been able to handle these things. Why I can't handle these things? I'm just gonna disengage from this. I'm not gonna do this. This class got hard, screw this class, I'm out. And it becomes this difficulty because you don't have that ability to slowly scale up. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's almost like you're not being challenged enough, so you kind of plateau at a certain level. And to piggyback off of what you were saying, because you brought up a great point about training art, I want to share something with you. There's this quote. I think you mentioned Yu Yu Hakusho. So there's a quote from one of the characters. Her name is Genkai. So she's a trainer of Yusuke.
I love Genkai
so
much.
One of her quotes is, she says, because basically she's training Yusuke, and Yusuke, just to give you a little bit of subtext, he's kind of like a, slacker a little bit, procrastinates, is kind of, marches to the beat of his own drum, whatever, kind of kid. But she's trying to train. She sees the potential in this, in him, and she knows that he can, he really can do some great things, right? So finally, one day she's training him, and she just says, she looks at him and says, it's time you bit the bullet and started caring about something with all your heart and energy. But you can't care about it if you're always holding yourself back in case it doesn't work out. Concentrate on what's important and commit. And commit to it all the way. And I think that's such a powerful quote, and that kind of ties in what you're saying, because I think a lot of times people are always in such fear of failure, of what if I don't succeed? Or, what if this doesn't go right? Or what if, things don't happen the way I planned it? But what if you do succeed? I think sometimes people are even more kind of nervous about that, and going to what you were saying about the gifted burnout, because now the expectations rise, right? Now there's more pressure for you to do, because they know that you can do it now. They've seen you do it once. Now they want to see even more of it. So that puts a lot of pressure on you. So I think a lot of times we kind of halfway do things, we do just enough, right? To get by on certain things, but we don't always go all the way on certain things either. If that makes sense.
I feel viscerally seen right now.
But yeah, man, I agree with you on that, Abe. That definitely is, that's definitely, you can definitely apply that to a lot of different dynamics. Is there any particular, talking about anime, is there any particular anime that you felt just, watching it and, growing up, you felt like you have a connection with, you looked at a character and you're like, man, that's so me. I'm going through that right now. Or is there something that just ever kind of stood out to you, in a particular one that was just man, this is just wow. And this is for anybody, not just Abe. It could be anybody.
Go if you have an answer. I say you go with this because I need a moment.
Yeah, I can name a lot, but like I said, I think for me, I don't know if it was just the timing, because I was in my young 20s when Adult Swim came out and Naruto was on. But I'm covered. I have a Naruto anime sleeve. I could really relate to a lot of the characters in different ways. Just Naruto's own personal journey of being an outcast and being rejected by the majority of his village, not having parents growing up, trying to find his way to fit in. I loved his you know, basically no matter what circumstance he was through, he was always going to get up and keep trying. Like he was not a quitter. He never gave up. And just my own trials and tribulations in life, you know, wanting to quit my dissertation process for my PhD times, or, you know, I went through, I'm a military veteran as well. So I went through Army basic training, and just, you know, wanting to quit, you know, when you're doing those marches or you're doing those runs, and like, and just keeping that mentality of like, he was just such a defining character for me in my life. And I think he helped me get through a lot of difficult times, because just watching him go through, you know, hardship after hardship after hardship with little to no support in the beginning, and being able to kind of knock it out. Like, I feel like that's kind of been my journey, and I commemorated him. You know, I got his journey on my arm, and it's actually interesting now. I don't know how old everybody is that's listening, but my anime sleeve is probably about 15 years old, and at the time, really you would not run into people that knew anime. And now all the time I'm running into almost every teenager I meet is like, oh my God, it's Naruto. Oh my God, it's Naruto. So I'm like wanting to wear long sleeve shirts and stuff, because before it was cool because nobody knew who it was, but now everybody knows who it is, which is cool.
Yeah, it's kind of become
different levels, you know, but yeah, it's interesting.
Or in the right situation. Or in the right situation, you'd be like, ah, yes, I'm activating my curse mark.
Right, yeah. That's true. No, I don't have a curse mark. I do have the Sharingan on my arm.
Oh, and my favorite was Kakashi. I was a Kakashi guy.
I do. You want like Kakashi is right.
Oh!
Yo! Oh, and you got the Gaara half transformed.
Oh!
And there's my Sharingan right there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Naruto's up here, but yeah. And then I got you can't really see it. Shishomaru is on the inside. Yeah,
Shishomaru, Inuyasha, one of the longest animes ever.
Yeah, a lot of parallels between Inuyasha and Naruto, but those were like my starting animes, so I feel like I kind of always go back to those.
You went into some good ones. I came in with Fist of North Star. That was my first one. I remember like my uncle. Yeah, my uncle, like, man, like, I don't even know if we should have been watching that at like 12, but my uncle was just like, yo, man, like, you like martial arts and stuff like that? Yeah, man. You want to see some heads get blown up? Yeah. Like,
watch a guy punch a dude so many times his head explodes. Have fun with that.
Right. Yeah. Hey, man, like, me and my cousin were just sitting there watching it. But she brings up a great point, though, because, like, when you think of Naruto, right, like, you can actually apply him, like, let's look at it from a clinical perspective, right? When you think of Naruto, what are some, like, aspects, like, that you can attribute to him? Like, you know, very hyperactive, right?
Mm-hmm. One thing, so I was attending one of the Geek Therapeutics trainings a while ago on, you know, anime in the context of mental health. And something they talked about in the context of Naruto is that he's a beautiful example of a character with attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And that right there is, when you frame it that way to people who struggle with ADHD, that can be really inspiring, because, well, while I cannot speak to this from experience, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm sure that if I went and I took a QB test, maybe not clinical levels, but I'd be having some difficulties. Point is, what I have consistently heard from everyone I've spoken to with ADHD or ADD or something in that realm, they have expressed difficulty, and the vast majority of the time is that they talk about a period of their life where before they were diagnosed, and then even after they were diagnosed, they felt, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be like all these other kids? Mm-hmm. And Naruto, I mean, we could dissect Naruto for the entirety of this panel plus 3 hours. Yeah. Between, you know, trauma and this and that, but regardless, if we just boil it down to that which is most simple, he's got ADHD. And a lot of this series is him learning how to work his own struggles into his strengths. Oh, his own ninja way, in the way that works for him, which is such a powerful thing for those of us, you know, here in the real world, who everyone learns differently, everyone functions differently, and what my path might be very different from your path, Eli, might be very different from your path, Joe. And you cannot sit here and expect yourself to follow the same path that everyone follows. And seeing Naruto in this way, as well as multiple other characters, you know, going off of the characters that you really resonate with and are inspired by, you know, Rock Lee is a heavy inspiration
Oh, yes.
for me. First of all, I love him. He's amazing. Second of all, I always say that the moment that the series of Naruto gets freaking real is the moment
Union exams?
he drops his leg weights. And, whoa!
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, this is another character who follows his own path, is unapologetically himself, and succeeds despite having no ability whatsoever in ninjutsu and genjutsu, creates his own path.
Perfect example of like going above your limitations and taking, yes, I'm with you on that, and taking like what some would consider a weakness and making it your greatest strength. Like, so definitely. And you know, like Naruto, like just him like finding that outlet and channeling all that energy, because you know with ADHD, like the concentration is the toughest thing, but he was able to find something that he genuinely had an interest in and made that his own. And like, what better than you know than Jitsu, and just like, and then his focus to become the Hokage, that was his goal, right? So he set goals now, you know.
Yes.
And yeah, he had these objectives he had to complete to reach those goals. Same thing with treatment. When you see a client, you set a treatment plan for them, you know, goals and objectives. We have things that we want to accomplish, but how are you going to get there? What are you going to do? What type of work, you know, practice and training? And definitely those things you see a lot in anime, you know, for sure.
Yes. And expanding on this in the context of Naruto, you know, in the context of ADHD, you know, we see a lot of people with ADHD and ADD who struggle to learn in traditional environments. As we see with Naruto, he's terrible in the traditional sitting in class, doing your work, blah, 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 listen to a lecture, da, da, da. But, you know, you get him out into the field, you get him actively doing these skills, da, 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 da. He is a kinesthetic learner, which we often see more so in ADHD and ADD populations, as far as I'm aware, if y'all please. But like, he gets out and he learns and succeeds in the way that works for him. He goes and trains with the frogs, learns by doing, and he does. He learns the Rasengan in record time and proceeds to come back and save the village. Oh God!
You know, you just triggered something. You just gave me like a light bulb. Like, you talk about the different types of learning, right? So you can take somebody like, and that's so important, because I think a lot of times, you know, when you're dealing with, especially like with adolescents in school, you know, sometimes it's really hard as a teacher, because I mean, you know, they can be overwhelmed, right, with so many different kids, but that is important, because you do have different types of learning. Like, I'm more of, I have to actually do it to learn it type of guy. And I would use the parallel of Sasuke and Naruto. So like, Sasuke is someone, he's observational. Like, he can see something and he has like that. Almost like
technically the Sharingan,
right?
But
well, yeah, and he just gets it. Naruto actually has to work a little harder. He has a different avenue, and makes sure he has to implement it a couple of times and do repetition over and over and over again until he gets it. But he'll get it. But it's just a different path. And I think that's such an important thing you hit on when we're dealing with just different challenges and barriers. Is how do we process things? How do we learn? We're all unique. And that's another way that anime can be utilized as an example of that. You know, yeah, definitely, man. Definitely hit the nail on the head with that. For sure. Yeah.
I dig it. And, you know, going back to the whole concept of characters that we connect with, you know, there's one of my favorite interventions with clientele that I would love to get y'all's thoughts on. If you already do it, how would you use it? You know, something I love to do. This was when I was getting supervision for my LPC licensure. My supervisor, who has no background in anime or anything like that, she talked about the importance of, in situations where we need to experience the feeling of support, something that we can do is we can imagine a person, either real or fictional, create someone, whatever, imagine them listening to us, hearing us, giving us a pep talk, stuff like that. I frequently give this to my clientele. You know, I ask, what characters do you connect with? What characters do you look up to? What characters would you want to give you that pep talk? I've given that to one client and they said, okay, blah, 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 blah. They come back and they say, oh yeah, you know, I thought about what you talked about, and imagine Captain America listening to me, supporting me. And, I use this in myself in my own life. There's a character that I really connect with and look up to I don't know if this is moving slightly out of the realm of anime and more into video games, but still, technically there's an anime for it. The Persona series, are you guys familiar?
Heard of it.
Heard of it, yeah. Heard of it.
So, and side note, Joe, regarding what we were talking about earlier about the SMT series, the Persona series is part of the Shin Megami Tensei universe. So,
Oh, okay.
fun fact. So if you end up
Okay.
Shin Megami Tensei 5, go play Persona 5. Everybody watching this, go play Persona 5 Royal. Best game ever made. You will cry. It's wonderful. But in it, I won't go too much into detail spoiler wise, because I encourage everyone going into it to go into it as fresh as you can, because a lot of the points pop beautifully when you don't see them coming. But there's a character in it, his name is Sojiro Sakura. When you first meet him, you play this teenage character who you name, and he comes under the care of Sojiro after being falsely accused of assaulting a politician. And basically Sojiro says, yeah, kid, I'm only doing this as a favor to blah, 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 blah. And he's very, gruff, this and that. And then across the game, he opens up, he softens, you realize that he starts off as awful dad and turns out to be amazing dad. And
Nice.
I both relate to that because I see that as myself in like 20 years, as well as I respect that and I appreciate that and I seek that. And so something that I will often do when I am feeling lonely, downtrodden, struggling, I will imagine Sojiro in front of me with a cup of coffee. He owns and runs a coffee shop. So and, speaking my struggles to him, sitting, nodding in his very hunched stance and speaking to me, encouraging me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is this sort of thing anything y'all have either used yourself with clients, what have you? And hold that and keep talking. I will be right back. Excuse me.
Well, nah, just like he brings up a good point. What intervention I like to do is I'm more of I like using visuals. So going back to, for example, like Yu Yu Hakusho. For those of you guys who have not seen it, like it's an older anime, so I'm showing my age a little bit. It's a 90s anime, but it's really good. It actually still holds up pretty well for anyone who's into Hunter x Hunter. The same creator of Hunter x Hunter, kind of built his name and reputation off of Yu Yu Hakusho. Just to put that out there. But one of the things that's cool about it is the first episode. Oh my God! Alone, if you watch, don't watch anything else of the series. The first episode to me is so powerful. The reason it's so powerful is, and I've utilized this as an intervention with my clients, is it deals a lot with grief and loss and not judging a book by its cover. You have a kid who basically is just a little teaser, a little spoiler, but he's a kid that you would not expect to, really go anywhere. He's a delinquent. He gets in trouble. He's skipping school. He's just basically, what you would consider to be, he likes to fight, gets into street fights or whatever. And it's just basically showing his whole day. So it kind of starts off as like a slice of life type of anime. So he's going through his whole day, and he just sees this kid playing on the corner, playing with a ball. And, he's joking with the kid, and you're which is uncharacteristic. It's kind of out of character because you see how his whole day was. It's like this kind of bully acting type of delinquent. And, he tells the kid not to play in the road. The kid ignores what he says, and he, does something. He pushes the kid out of the way and then saves the kid. But in the course, something happens. He, is no longer with us. So the whole rest of the episode is basically exploring what people thought of him after his death. And he's a spirit, so he gets to see how people perceived him. And it's so powerful because there's one character who he pretty much beats up every day, who goes in there and he's just pouring his eyes out, man. And it almost made me kind of cry. But the reason I
love Cool Bar so much.
I utilize that episode is because, for one, you can process the different stages of grief. It touches on denial. It touches on, bargaining. It touches on anger. It touches on all of them. And you can utilize the episode, or what I do with my clients, I utilize the episode as a psychoeducation. It's like a 22-minute episode. So you can utilize the episode as a psychoeducation. It's the first episode, so hell, they might even learn about new anime, and they actually are learning about grief in that process, and maybe in seeing how others process grief, how he processes his own, demise. You can also learn maybe, oh, okay, wow, I'm not alone, or I actually can kind of relate to some of these aspects. Maybe that's how I would feel, if I lost certain things. It kind of starts the topic. It starts the conversation, if that makes sense. So that's one intervention I utilize as well. And I do a lot, like, I actually have like a library or just certain episodes that really, I think, apply to different things. That I keep a catalog so I can just kind of go to, when I'm working with clients, and I can just kind of pull them out. Even the first episode of My Hero Academia is like classic. I mean, you can actually talk a lot about, just in general. Have you ever wanted something so much, just, man, like you just really, you could taste it, like you really wanted to achieve this goal, but you had certain limitations that would just not warrant it, and it was not even realistic to even go there. Like, for me, like I wanted to play football. I was like, man, I'm gonna play football in college, and I'm gonna, do all these cool things. I got injured or whatever, and I had a limitation. So, that's kind of how the first episode of, like, I use that episode because just Midoriya and his journey. Like, if you guys have not seen My Hero Academia, for those of you guys who love shonen, it's a really, really good shonen anime. And like that first episode alone, I think it really, especially when he sees the doctor and the doctor drops news on him, it's just like classic. And it's just like, man, but I utilize that scene a lot to show, like that correlation, that connection, that relatability. I just really think that's really the biggest takeaway with anime in general is it's really relatable. It's surprising sometimes I think to a lot of people how relatable it is, some people, and even people who aren't into it like that, it's still interesting because I can still draw from certain things, like I can use like certain music, from like Samurai Champloo or Cowboy Bebop, and they'll be like, man, that's a dope tune. Like where'd that come from? I'm like, oh, that's not Cowboy Bebop. That's Samurai Champloo. That's, whatever. That, and they're like, oh, what's that about? And then you tell them, and then they're like, what? Like, it's that deep? So,
as a side note, and then after that, Joe, I would love to hear from you because I don't think we've heard from you enough yet. It's funny what you say about that, about kind of introducing something that without connecting it to the thing, and then that leading to that communication. For years and years and years of my childhood, a lot of my family's like, oh, you and your Japanese cartoons and your video games, it's bad for you, it's rotting your brain. And then a couple of years ago, I'm driving along with my great aunt, 80-some-odd-year-old woman, and a song from the soundtrack of Nier Automata comes on, and just beautiful orchestral, this and that. And that. She says, oh, this is really nice. What is this? And we come to a stop at a stop sign, and I say, oh, it's from a video game. The most powerful I've ever felt in my life. But anyway.
Nah, cool though, man. I feel the same way because like even certain songs, man. I actually just like Final Fantasy 7. Love that soundtrack. Like, man, and when they did the remake, oh my god, man. But fanboy. All right, but yeah.
Anyway.
Good.
Joe, you're
I'm still here. I don't know what we're talking about, but I got some ideas while you guys were talking. So I was thinking back to, I use a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy. So one of the things with the anime, the crossovers that I like to use is the values and goal setting, because you guys are talking about, like watching these characters, like we can easily identify like what are their values. Okay, what do you think their goals are built on those values, and then helping them, because for my adults, I have a lot of adults that are like don't know the difference between a value and a goal, and then when I tell them what the difference is, then they're like, I have no idea what I want my values to be, because I've been brainwashed by society to what my values should be, and I don't agree with those. So I've just been kind of flailing around because I'm not really sure where I want to go. So it helps to have them pick whatever geek topic they're into, you know, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, and just name their favorite character and just say, what do you think that person values? Like, what do you think their values are? And how could you tell that that's their values? And they can say, like, you know, for Naruto, like, I value friendship. Okay, well, how do you know Naruto values friendship? It's like, because he's willing to die for them constantly throughout the show, you know, like, so even if they betrayed the village, he obviously values friendship more than he values the village at that point when he's trying to get Sasuke back and, you know, all those things. So having people be able to identify values in their favorite characters then helps them kind of take a step back and be able to clearly kind of figure out their own values. It's like Abe's face.
That's really good.
And then also like even just goal setting though, like, you know, of course, you know, most of us will say we value health and fitness, right? How many of us are actually eating healthy all the time and exercising all the time? Yeah, right. So we kind of can use anime to be like, okay, so sometimes your favorite character in a show, he values A, and he doesn't really want to do B, but he goes ahead and does it anyway because it's going to help him get closer to his values. And again, trying to connect to overcome some of those barriers that we have to actually making that committed action to getting those goals done so that we can live in line with our values.
I was thinking about Baki the Grappler when you said that.
Yeah, it's, hey, the holidays are coming up, right? So we can eat like crap because we value eating like crap more than we value health and fitness in November and December, at least I do. And then also the other thing I like to use with anime is narrative therapy. So I like to do a lot of, I get a lot of people that like to write. So I get them to write fan fiction or rewriting the story that they're telling themselves. So when we're anxious, you know, oh my God, this is going to happen, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? So I have them stop that completely. And I'm just like, okay, so write down worst case scenario, what do you think can go wrong? And then again, with narrative therapy, you're, okay, so let's say you're afraid of going on a plane. Okay, so you're going to go on a plane. Well, what's the worst thing that can happen? It can crash and you can die. Okay, so if it crashes and it dies, then what? Then they're like, well, I guess I'm dead. And I'm like, cool, so what are you so worried about? Right, like kind of helping them write it out so they can kind of realize that like worst case scenario is not like, you know, like it's bad, but like there's nothing you can do about it. You know, if a plane crashes and you die, like you can't, worrying about it doesn't make the plane not crash. Right, like the flight attendants don't come on and say, okay, everybody, so I want everybody to worry super hard right now because if you don't worry hard enough, the plane is going to crash. Right, so anyway. So
Power
like
of belief holds up the plane.
Right, fear keeps the plane afloat, right? No. But you know, having people write narratives, so writing out their fears and then rewriting their fears, right? So like change something about the story you just wrote to make it not possible. So another example I like to use, you know, let's say for nightmares, people are having nightmares. So you're having a nightmare about being in a car crash and it goes over a bridge and lands in the water and you drown. Okay, so rewrite that dream to the car hits the water and you become a sea monster like Luca and all of a sudden you can swim. Problem solved, right? Or you can fly. So as the car is going over the bridge, you take flight, you're fine, right? So having people kind of rewrite the nightmare and then you're supposed to rehearse that before you go to sleep so that hopefully it intermeshes before you go to sleep and then the new improved nightmare happens and you know, it becomes a superhero dream instead of a doom and gloom dream. So
That's
I like
dope.
to use anime
like
references for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope.
All right, now we're going to take a couple of minutes in case people have any questions. I don't know if they do, but let's find out. Does anyone have any questions regarding anime, regarding mental health at all? Yeah, people aren't going to want to chat, which is understandable because you know, we're dealing with mental health issues. But yeah, I mean, so go ahead and remind everyone who you are, where they can find you, and we'll wrap up.
You said they aren't going to want to chat. Is that what you said?
No, they're a little shy. That's fine.
We don't.
Yeah, just let everybody know who you are, where they can find you, and we'll wrap up.
And may I suggest adding something on to that?
Yes.
So I fully agree with that. And I think each of us should put forth one series that we staunchly recommend people go and watch, whether it be for mental health reasons, personal reasons, whatever.
Cool.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay, so I'll just go first. Again, Dr. Shah Joe, my website is artemisparenting.org. So ARTEMIS parenting.org. I service Hawaii and Florida residents. I don't know where you guys are at. I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel yet, but I haven't. So I don't know. And I might go to, I would say Naruto, although Naruto is like a lifetime commitment because it's like,
It is.
I mean, I've been wanting to rewatch it, but I feel like I don't have 3 years of my life to dedicate again. So if you don't have time, if you're looking for a time sink, Naruto is where to go, because you go Naruto Shippuden, all the movies, then Boruto. He has a kid now, so I mean, just it's the gift that keeps on giving. Like 20 years
It's
later, I'm
still
still
going,
yeah. Yes, so I would definitely check it out. And if you're not interested, if you don't have that much of a time commitment, just watch some of the movies, right? Because movies are like, I would say anime movies are a great like feel for if you want to jump into the series. I actually don't like the movies as much because I feel like they don't give as much detail, and you're kind of like, if you didn't have the context of watching the series, you might miss some stuff, but it's kind of like a good way to get your feet wet. So cool.
All right. So I guess I'll go next. So yeah, my name is Eli Martin, and I go by the Clinician. So that's THECLINICIAN. And you can find me on Instagram at the Clinician #1. And you can also check me out on YouTube, Comics and Coffee, but it's spelled a little uniquely. It's spelled CALM. So calm, like you chilling, calm, and mix, spelled correctly, MIX, the letter N, and then coffee spelled regularly, COFFEE. Comics and Coffee. And you can check out all my YouTube videos there. It's also on Spotify, iTunes. You can check out my podcast on there. And actually, I have a fellow geek therapist coming on next Sunday. So DJ Starfire, so that should be really cool. And you can check us out as we talk about some of those topics. But all right, anime. I think I've said it throughout the entirety of the show, but Yu Yu Hakusho I think is like a really good one. It's a happy medium between long and short. It's about like 112 episodes. But I think you can get a lot out of it. It really incorporates a lot of different dynamics from slice of life to shonen. But on the clinical aspect, it teaches grief. It teaches overcoming, perseverance, empowering confidence. There's so many different dynamics you can pull from it. Just the relatability, processing things, and things of that nature. And Samurai Champloo is another one that I would also recommend. It's definitely really cool in terms of just understanding how the mind works, how we process things, acceptance of a lot of different unique things. It's definitely a gumbo pot of a lot, and it's really cool soundtrack to RIP The New Job is. And I'll leave you guys with this quote actually from Samurai Champloo. It goes like this: freedom isn't something earned through suffering or pushing yourself. You must accept yourself just as you are and live according to the flow of things that is true to freedom. So just go with the flow, guys. Go with the flow. Everything works itself out. The river always comes back full circle.
And my name's Abe Klein. I operate out of the Philadelphia area. I don't have any majorly front-facing social media yet. I have appeared on, if you get a chance, there's something called the Garbled Podcast. They talk about a lot of things. I've been brought on for some various geek psychology concepts, and I love talking about this stuff. It's my bread and butter. In regards to anime, well, first of all, as previously stated, go play Persona 5, particularly play Persona 5 The Royal. So good.
Serious about that thing too.
I have feelings. And beyond that, Food Wars is really good. Ignore the fan service in the first couple episodes. It gets better, I assure you. It's phenomenal hero's journey. Also, don't watch that show if you're hungry. Watch that show only if you're eating. It's basically Iron Chef, the anime. And also, something I recently watched that had a strong effect on me was Jujutsu Kaisen. I've actually been using it with a lot of my clients in talking about conscious versus subconscious in the context of the main character and the demon inside of him, blah, 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 blah. Great show. Highly recommend it. It's fun. It's funny. I think it is poised to become one of the new great shonen series of our generation.